With just over 2 weeks until Election Day, Portland's mayoral race is heating up. After 4 years serving as mayor of Portland, Ted Wheeler says he's ready for 4 more. But his opponent, Sarah Iannarone, says it's time for a change.
The difference between myself and Sarah is one of record. I already have a record of bringing people together to get things done. We're in the middle of a pandemic and an economic crisis. This is probably not the time to put on the training wheels.
I think the mayor is having a nice time insulting me right now because he wants to deflect from the fact that he's completely failed.
Tonight, I spoke with both candidates about their different approaches in tackling some of the biggest issues in Portland. On the issue of violent protests in Portland, the candidates have differing ideas on what should happen moving forward.
The key to ending the violence is to arrest and hold accountable people who are engaged in violence or criminal destruction. On one hand, I strongly support the Black Lives Matter movement and the right of people to peacefully demonstrate and express their First Amendment rights. But what happens when people engage in criminal activity, whether it's violence or criminal destruction, that's something completely separate. It has nothing to do with Black Lives Matter. And that's why I say for those folks, arrest them and hold them accountable.
If I were the mayor, I can all but guarantee you that we wouldn't be in night 125 plus of these protests because we would have been working on these things. I don't believe that the incumbent has demonstrated he has the capacity to bring the situation to a peaceful resolution. I have made a commitment to a few direct actions that can happen on day one should I take office. One, so making Commissioner Joanne Hardesty the police commissioner is one way. Two, making sure that we are holding the police accountable for their actions.
Something they can agree on, their belief for a need for police reform. But what that looks like varies greatly.
What we've seen from the current mayor is an inability to deal with his police force. They are quite insubordinate to his leadership. And pretty much it looks like they're doing whatever they want without much consequence. We need to make sure that we're not sending militarized responses to things that need trauma-informed public health responses, including homelessness and people in mental health crisis.
Police reform going forward is going to be a full-time job. I created the city's first unarmed police unit, the Portland Public Safety Support Specialist Program. Let's continue to support non-police interventions in the community. Let's continue to support things like the Portland Street Response, which is a non-police intervention for people in crisis on our streets.
Also on the minds of voters, safety in the Rose City. Gun violence in Portland has doubled since last year. So far in 2020, there have been at least 630 shootings in Portland, including 5 from this weekend. And when it comes to addressing that violence,
I'm asking my colleagues to support an increase of funding towards the Office of Violence Prevention. They actually are the ones who work with our community partners to prevent violence, to mitigate violence.
When you have our police force almost unilaterally focused on policing Black Lives Matter demonstrations, they're not then able to deal with more violent incidences in the city. And there's a sense around town that because of the situation being out of control, that we don't really have anyone to call when there's an emergency.
Homelessness is a key issue this election year, and voters want to know how the future mayor of Portland plans to help fix the issue.
In just the last few weeks, I've called for and stood up 300 additional shelter beds, the chronic population. Rather than just putting those individuals in a shelter, we're actually connecting them to the services they need to get off and stay off the streets.
My approach has been different from him since day one, and that is I'm much more inclined toward community partnerships and community-led solutions. I don't want to police people experiencing homelessness.
Iannarone is also proposing a $1.8 million pilot program that would give 125 low-income Black mothers $1,000 a month for a year. The spending of those qualifying people would be voluntarily tracked to monitor the impact of that money.
By doing a pilot program, we could test it out, make sure that it works, tweak it if we have to, and if it doesn't work, get rid of it. But we have to try new things because obviously what's happening now is not working.
Another issue Mayor Wheeler is focusing on, cleaning up downtown.
I'm asking my colleagues for $900,000 additional dollars in next week's budget process to enhance again the litter collection and graffiti abatement efforts downtown.
In a poll conducted earlier this month by DHM Research for OPB, Wheeler and Iannarone were neck and neck, 33 to 34%. 6% said they're writing in Teresa Rayford, who founded Don't Shoot Portland. And the rest, about 27%, say they still don't know who they're voting for.